Hey kids, are you ready for kids' Bible class? All right. Well, we're going to begin with some songs.
There's a Sea of Galilee. There's a Sea of Galilee. There's a sea. There's a sea. There's a Sea of Galilee. There's a boat in the Sea of Galilee. There's a boat in the Sea of Galilee. There's a boat. There's a boat. There's a boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are men in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are men in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are men. There are men. There are men in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are hands on the man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are hands on the man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are hands. There are hands. There are hands on the man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are nets in the hands of the man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are nets in the hands of the man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are nets. There are nets. There are nets in the hands of the man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are fish in the nets in the hands of the man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are fish in the nets in the hands of the man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are fish. There are fish. There are fish in the nets in the hands of the man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are gills in the fish in the nets in the hands of the man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are gills in the fish in the nets in the hands of the man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee. There are gills. There are gills. There are gills in the fish in the nets in the hands of the man in the boat in the Sea of Galilee.
Best friend, Jesus is my best friend. Jesus is my best friend, and I am not alone. No, I am not alone. My best friend, Jesus is my best friend. Jesus is my best friend, and I am not alone. No, I am not alone. My nightlight, Jesus is my nightlight. Jesus is my nightlight, and I am not alone. No, I am not alone. My nightlight, Jesus is my nightlight. Jesus is my nightlight, and I am not alone. No, I am not alone. My rock, Jesus is my rock. Jesus is my rock, and I am not alone. No, I am not alone. My rock, Jesus is my rock. Jesus is my rock, and I am not alone. No, I am not alone. My fortress, Jesus is my fortress. Jesus is my fortress, and I am not alone. No, I am not alone. My fortress, Jesus is my fortress. Jesus is my fortress, and I am not alone. No, I am not alone.
All right, that was some good singing, kids. Hey, listen, are any of you guys really strong? Do you have big muscles? Can you do this or do this? Go ahead and make a muscle pose. All right. Well, I'm going to bet you that even if some of you are really, really strong, even if you've got really big muscles, there's somebody in your house that is stronger than you. I bet that your mommy or your daddy is stronger than you are. Maybe your grandma or your grandma. They're bigger, they're older, they got bigger muscles, and because they're stronger than you, they can do things that you can't do. You know, I think about this jar of pickles here. You know, you guys might struggle in trying to open something like this. You'd be, oh, I can't open it. But if you just call on your dad or your mom or your grandma or your grandpa to come in, they can just, boop, and they've got it. They can do it just like that because it's so easy for them because they're stronger than you. And so what we learned from our lesson today, we're going to study about Gideon. And Gideon, he didn't think he was very strong at all. But God wanted to show him that he didn't have to rely on his own strength. He just had to trust in the strength of God because God is stronger than anything on earth. He can defeat any army just with his own power. And so that's what we're going to learn from the story of Gideon. And I've got a couple of scenes here that we shot earlier in the week that I want to show you to demonstrate some of the things from Gideon's life.
When God first called Gideon to lead the Israelites against the Midianites, Gideon was afraid and thought that he was not an important enough person to be the leader of God's army. But God convinced him to be the leader, and Gideon was able to call thousands of Israelite soldiers to fight against the Midianites. In fact, he had 32,000 soldiers together ready to fight with him in the lead. But God told Gideon that that was far too many soldiers. If they defeated the Midianites with that many, they would think it was their own strength
and not God's that won the battle. So God told Gideon to line up all the soldiers and ask them all if any of them were afraid. And if some of them were afraid, then they were to be sent home. Here's what happened. Thank you for coming out to fight the Midianites. Are any of you afraid?
I'm afraid. I'm afraid.
Well, you need to go home then. After Gideon sent home all the men that were afraid, there were 10,000 soldiers left. God told him that was still far too many. They would think that it was their strength that beat the Midianites, not God's. So the Lord told Gideon to take all the men down to the water where they would drink. And he told Gideon that the men who drank by getting on their knees and sticking their head down in the water would all go home. And the men who instead cupped the water with their hands and drank like this would be able to stay and fight. This is what happened. Okay, soldiers, I've taken you down to the water to drink. Go ahead. Okay, that's enough. You two, go home. You get to stay. All right, so now we're going to have Joe Boone read Judges 6:14 through 16.
Then the Lord turned to him and said, Go in this might of yours, and you shall have Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Have I not sent you? So he said to him, O my Lord, how can I save Israel? Indeed, my clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house. And the Lord said to him, Surely I will be with you, and you will defeat the Midianites as one man.
Okay, kids, we're going to read a story now called God Provides Victory Through Gideon. God's people, called the Israelites, lived in a special place. This land named Canaan was so great, a gift from God through grace. As time went by, the Israelites forgot God and His Word. They worshipped idols made of stone. Their love for Him had blurred. It was not long before these folks had enemies galore, who came from nearby Midian, a land that was next door. The Midianites were very mean. They ate the people's food. They stole their crops, camped on their land, and acted very rude. The Israelites were scared of them. They crawled in caves to hide. At last they prayed to God for help, asked Him to be their guide. One day, a man named Gideon was threshing a field of wheat. The angel came and sat down near his feet. "O Gideon," the angel said, "you have a job to do. You are a mighty warrior, and God will strengthen you. The Israelites need lots of help, and you must lead the fight. Your men will beat the Midianites. The Lord will be your might." "But," he replied, "I am so weak. Why has God chosen me?" He asked God for some signs or proof before he would agree. When he was sure that God would help, he said, "Yes, I'll obey." He blew his trumpet, soldiers came. Not all of them could stay. And then God told him, "Send those home who say they are afraid." Though thousands left, too many stayed. Their minds could not be swayed. The Lord commanded, "Send more home. Go to the river's brink. Choose men who lap the water up, not those who kneel to drink." 300 men and Gideon lined up around the camp. Each had a trumpet, pitcher, torch. How could they be the champ? They blew their horns and smashed the jars. Their torches burned so bright, the enemy woke up and ran. God's people won the fight. As God had promised Gideon he'd help in every way, the army did not fight alone. God fought with them that day. You too are His chosen child. This story is for you. Commit your way unto the Lord. Trust Him in all you do. And now let's have a prayer.
I'm going to be saying a prayer. Dear God, thank you for everything you've given us. Thank you for all the blessings you've given us. Please help the sick people and Be with the travelers for them to be safe. And bless all the kids that are learning about God. Amen.
Thanks so much for that wonderful prayer. So kids, I hope that we've learned something from studying about Gideon this week. The thing that I want you to understand the most is that God doesn't need you to be really strong. He needs you to trust in His strength. He can defeat anyone in battle. He can open any pickle jar. He can help you with anything in your life if you rely on Him. So trust in the Lord in all His strength.